Welcome to 9-4. In 9-2, you learned how to solve quadratic equations by taking square roots. In 9-4, we're still going to solve quadratic equations. We're still going to get two solutions, usually, but we're going to use the factoring method instead, just because the equations are set up in a different way. Remember that the solutions are wherever the parabola crosses the x-axis, because solutions are the same thing as the x-intercepts of that parabola, which are also the same thing as the roots or zeros. Fill in roots or zeros. Those are the values of x that make that function equal to 0, which are why they're called zeros. Today we need to use the zero product property. The zero product property says that if a times b equals 0, then a equals 0 or b equals 0. Think about it. If you multiply two different numbers and they equal 0, that answer comes out to be 0. One of them has to be 0. There's no way that you get 0 by multiplying without 0 being one of the numbers. We're going to use that property to solve these equations. This equation has something times something equals 0. A times b equals 0. One of these parts has to be equal to 0. So we're going to split those parts, set them both equal to 0 separately, and solve them. We're going to write that x plus 4 equals 0. And write that x minus 9 equals 0. And then solve each of those on their own. Don't think too hard. This one you would just subtract 4 on both sides. And x equals -4. And that's the first root. In this one you would add 9 because that's the opposite of subtracting. This one gives you x equals +9. And those are the two answers. I want you to pause the video and do this problem over here. Pause the video, try it all by yourself. Yes, I'm going to do it, so yes, you can see if your answers match, but I want you to try it by yourself. Pause it now. Is that what you got? Should be. If that's not what you got, let me know. I'll help you figure out what went wrong. Example 3. We still need to use the zero product property, but the first thing we're going to have to do is factor it. This equation is not already factored. We're going to have to use the slide method, which you learned in Unit 8, in order to do that. You learned how to do that in 8.5. So if you have no clue what I'm about to do, go back and look at your 8.5 notes. First, you need to identify what A, B, and C are. A equals 1, B equals -1, C equals -30, which means that something times something has to be A times C. Something times something has to be -30. Something plus something has to add up to be B, has to add up to be -1. We have to think about those two numbers. The easiest way is to write -30 off to the side and write that list of factors out. 1 times 30 gives you 30, but there's no way you can add to get -1 even if you change the signs. That's not going to work. So next we're going to write 2 and 15. Again though, no way we get 1 out of that. 3 and 10, it's not going to work either. 4 does not go into 30. 5 and 6 will work. because they have to multiply to be negative 30, one of them has to be negative. I choose negative 6 because 5 plus negative 6 will give us negative 1. Those are our two numbers. So those go in the parentheses with that x. I'm going to write the x plus 5 and x minus 6 still equals 0. We have to take that first coefficient, which is 1, and put that 1 down here. Remember, you have to check and make sure that those fractions can't simplify. But 5 divided by 1 is still just 5. 6 divided by 1 is still just 6. So you can slide that 1 over if you want, but 5, it just simplifies. You don't really need to worry about that. So I'm just going to rewrite it without those 1s because they don't matter. Then use the zero product property to finish solving it. I want you to finish this problem like we just did those ones up there. You have to split those two parts, find the solution from that one, find the solution from that one. After you finish that, try number 2 down here. Notice it says equals 40, not equals 0. So the first thing that you're going to have to do is subtract 40 on both sides. That's going to get you set up with x squared plus 6x minus 40 equals 0. And now you're good to go because it's equal to 0. You can factor it. You'll have to do your ABC. You have to write your list out and everything so that you can do those steps out and find your solution.